Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I made this cute little, I haven't starched the handle yet, but I made this cute little candle holder and candle holder and candle for Christmas. It's fairly big, as you can tell by my hands. In this tutorial, I think I'm going to make this smaller than it is here, although I don't think it's that bad. As far as size goes, it's hard to show you all in here. So you can make the decision when it comes time to make the flame, what hook you want to use. So I'm not going to be using the same colors per se. I'm going to do, because I want Christmas colors, right? So I'm going to put 2 of these on my tables. So I did this in red. So I'm going to do this in green. And this is the sparkly metallic green. It's from Red Heart Metallic. So I'm going to use that for the candle holder. I'm going to use a completely different color yellow. I think a lighter yellow would be good. And this yellow here that I used is worsted. And because I want it smaller, I'm just going to use a regular 4-weight and not a worsted. Set that over there. And then the candle's still going to be white because I think white represents peace. So this is got the sparkle in it. So same Red Heart metallic. So let's get started with the these don't come in cakes. I turn them into cakes. So if you haven't seen my my yarn spinner video, I'll have to go check that out. I just need to find the beginning. Beginning was right in front of my face the whole time. Anyway, so I'm gonna probably use, now I may change my mind, you never know what I'm gonna do, but I'm probably gonna use the 4mm G hook for the flame with my 4-weight yarn. With this other metallic yarn, it's worsted. So I'm going to use the needle it calls for, which is a 5mm H. Just because I don't want anything to really be tight, especially with the stitch I'm doing. So I'm going to do an alpine stitch, which is a pattern stitch for the candle. The top of the candle and the bottom round parts are built separately and sewn on, just so I could keep the cylinder shape with the pattern stitch. It was just too difficult to try to do the pattern stitch and the top and bottom to keep it flat. So I did them separately and just sewed them on. So this is what we're going to start with. So if you don't know how to do the pattern stitch, don't worry, I will show you. It's pretty easy. So we first have to start with a base for, so this is going to be built flat, the candle, and then it's going to be sewn together. So we're not doing any magic rings yet. So let's get started. You're going to make a slip knot. I don't know what it's on the end of my yarn, but it feels rough. I hate when you get ends that are crappy. So you're going to chain 26. So that's my 26 chains. A little tangled. That may be hard to see. Let me turn my light down a little bit. Make it a little easier to see. This is so simple. You're not going to have to see, but I will zoom in with my editing for you anyway. So you've got 25 working chains because your 26th is on your hook. You're going to put 1 single crochet. So we're just doing the base of, we haven't started the pattern stitch, we're just doing the base for the pattern stitch. So you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 25 working chains. So once you come to the end, just make sure your slip knot is pulled tight. You're going to chain 2 and you're going to turn your work. So on the other side, oh, I got a knot starting. So on the other side, you're going to start 1 double crochet. Yes, 1 double crochet in each stitch. There's a stitch right there, and even though we chained 2, because we chained 2, we don't have to go into it. So we go into the next one. And we're going to do double crochets all the way across. So you should have 24 across. Don't think you've done anything wrong. It's because we used our chain 2 over here as a stitch, and so we skipped that first stitch. So 24 is what you should have. So once you're done, and make sure you go into the very last stitch, you're going to chain 1. You're going to want to count all of your stitches throughout this pattern. It's very hard to not drop one. So 24 is the magic number. So this next round is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. You've chained 1, you don't need to go into this first one. So our base is now set. That's our base. Single crochet, double crochet, single crochet. And now we're going to start our alpine stitch. So I don't know if you've done the washcloth with me at all, and you may already know this stitch. Chain 2, turn your work. Sorry if you can hear that, it's my dog running around upstairs. So you've got posts. All these are called posts. That's the double crochet that you did before. So we are going to do front post. Here, I'll show you. So yarn over, ignore this turning part, go to your front post. You're gonna yarn over and go in and pick up that front post. And then you're gonna complete a double crochet, but you're gonna pull up because you need the height. Then you can complete your double crochet. Then in this next stitch, which is above the next double crochet, you're going to put in a double crochet into that stitch, and then you're going to go back down to your post. So every other stitch gets a double crochet, and then your next one goes into the regular stitch. So on your post, pull your work up, because you need it to be the same height as the one that goes into the stitch. So that's your alpine stitch. So this stitch technically is taking up the space for that. I've done my post here, so I got to do my post on this one. So make sure you're pulling up, and then you go into the stitch. So front post, and then the stitch. So that's how we're going to make our candle. Now the second row is a little bit different in how you alternate, because now you're going to have back post, front post, but you're not going to do back post, front post. You'll see what I mean when we get there. So the only thing you really got to remember here is I'm on a post, and now I'm in a stitch. Post, and it's every other post. So I am at the end. I am coming to the end anyway. So I've done my front post there, and I've done my stitch up here. So I've got to skip that one because that's what this stitch is for. So I got to do around this post here. And because I have 23, I've been counting, I have to still stick a double crochet in here to make 24. So you will be using your turning chain parts for stitches. So then you're going to chain one, and you're going to turn, because in between doing your alpine stitch, you need to do one row of one single crochet. So skip this first one, you don't need to go into it. Your rows are still going to remain straight, and you're going to do 24 single crochets. And if you don't have 24, then make it 24 by adding a stitch or taking away, whatever you need to do. I just lost count. 2, 4. And use your turning spot. Chain 2. As your next round is going to be the alpine stitch. I mean, the whole thing is the alpine stitch. The whole thing's the pattern. But from here on, you're just going to be doing your front post, back post, singles, alternating rows. So we've got our row of singles up here, so we have somewhere to put our stitches. Now I'm going to be doing these back posts. So these are the front ones that I did in the round that I just finished. And now I'm going to do the back post. So I need something for above this post, so I'm going to put a double crochet into the stitch. This chain 2 acts as a double crochet. So now I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pick up this back post. And I'm going to pull up and I make my stitch. And then I'm going to go into the stitch. Yarn over, pick up your back post. And now go into the stitch. So I'm back around to the end. I've really got nowhere else to go but over here. So I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to put my stitch in here. I'm not going to do anything. That's like a an A stitch, V stitch. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm not going to put anything in there. I'm going to chain one and I'm going to turn. That was my 24, so I don't technically have to put anything in there. But if you don't like this, this is all getting sewn together, so it doesn't really matter if there's a little jet out right there. But we're going to be doing the sew together thing like that. I did 9 for this. I did 9 rows. But the reason I say I have no rows is because it's up to you how big you want your candle. So we're just going to keep going. I chained 1. So my next row, because I just did the alpine, my next row is 1 single crochet in each of those 24 stitches. Chain 2. And now we're ready to do the alpine stitch again. It's such a neat pattern for a candle. There's plenty of pattern stitches I'm sure you can use for a candle. I chose to do this one because I liked it. So now this row looks different yet again. Now my front post is over here and not over here. So this row was over here. This row is over there. So now I want to go back to this row because you want it to alternate like that. That's what you want your pattern to do. So this was my first row, this was my second row, putting it in the middle. So now I want this to be over here again. So I've got a back post and a back post. So from here on out, you're going to be constantly hitting your back post. So I've chained 2. I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pick up that back post. So because I'm instantly on a back post, I don't have to use my stitches up here. So pull up because you need that height. Yarn over and then you're going to go into this stitch to make up for the front post here. And then you're going to yarn over and you're going to grab this back post pull up, yarn over, use the stitch. So I've got nowhere else to go. I've done my stitch double crochet, not my post. That's my post. That's my post. That's my stitch. I got nowhere else to go but the turning chain. So I'm just going to put a double crochet in there. And that's my 24th stitch. Chain 1 and turn. And now you do your singles. So I've come to the end again. I'm going to chain 2 and I'm going to turn my work. So we're still keeping our stitches in between our stitches from the row before. So this row starts differently again. So now we have a front post, which means I'm going to go into the stitch and make a stitch, make a double, and I'm going to grab my back post. So everything's the back post. So that's my 23rd stitch. I got nowhere else to go but the turning chain. So I'm going to go right into there for stitch 24. And my chain 1. So go ahead and complete however many rows you want. So you count your rows just by counting these. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you get to 9, if that's how tall you want to go, then actually, sorry, 2, 4, 6, 8. Because you got to count the single crochet in between. So we're just about there. We've got, I think I ended my round actually on single crochet. So just to give you an idea, now I got a couple rows to go still. So I'm going to make the assumption that I've done my single crochet and then another alpine stitch row and then a single crochet. So, and then I stopped. So, but you're gonna have to count these as 2, 4, 6, 8. So I did 9 plus my starting base. I did 9 above that. So I'm basically at 8 now. So I'm gonna end it with my single, alpine, single, and then I'm going to fasten off. So you make it as big as you want to make it, and I'll meet you back here. So this is about as big as I want it. So I'm just going to fasten off. So you just need a tail to sew this together like this. So nothing massive. We're going to tuck this guy in. So we don't have to be super serious about this because he's getting all tucked in the center of it anyway. So we don't have to be super serious. So you just need to bring your two sides together. So I'm over here. I'm just going to grab this corner. I'm going to try to keep it even. I'm going to go right back into that same corner. So that's just how I'm going to start it. So I'm just going to whip stitch the entire, so just make sure that your single crochet row here and your single crochet row here are lined up. There's no really any stitches in the middle, but try to just stay as close to the top as you can, because you don't want a seam. You don't really want this to look like you sewed it together. You want it to be seamless. So we're just going to grab the top. So you're actually going to whip stitch. Like not through all 4 pieces. A whip stitch is just back loop to back loop. Don't really have loops here, but you can kind of guesstimate what you're going to do. You don't really want it to be noticeable. So just the bare minimum. So keep in mind you're stuffing this as well, but we're going to do our other pieces of the candle before we even attempt to stuff it, because it'll just go right through. So this will be enough to hold it. Don't think for a second that going through 2 pieces of yarn isn't going to be enough. It'll be enough. This is just a centerpiece. This isn't a doll. This isn't anything anyone's going to be playing with. And it is going to be enough. I don't know if you've tried to tear worsted weight yarn, like rip it apart, but it's kind of not an easy task to do. Actually, I haven't been able to do it, period. So it's not like something's going to happen where this is just going to rip all apart. You know, if you store it for the season and stuff like that, it's not going to come apart. So try to go to the, I didn't do that with my other one, and it kind of sunk down a little bit there, which is why I put my handle on that side to try to take away from what it looks like. So lessons learned. I am not a very good sewer. I never ever even admit to being a good sewer. So you spread that apart, you can't even tell that we've just sewed it together, other than the beginning little bump there, which will hide when we do the top part. And then hopefully we can just kind of salvage what would ultimately be a bump here. We're just going to kind of try to salvage that somehow. I'm just going to weave in a little bit because I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to use the tail from the top and bottom when we make it to sew it on, so I don't need this anymore. But I don't want to pull too tight because I don't want that to dip down on me again. So feel free to just stretch it out. Now you don't have to be too serious about weaving. That's all going to be on the inside of the candle with the stuffing, so I doubt very much it's going to come loose or anything. So there's your candle for now. So let's do the top and the bottom. So these are going to be exactly the same. So I'll make one with you and then you can go ahead and make the other one. So you're going to do a magic ring. Grab the right hook. Still using a 5. You're going to put 6 single crochets inside this ring. You will need a stitch marker. So you're going to put 2 single crochets in each of these 6 stitches. So you can just count to 12, but just make sure you're putting 2 in each stitch. If you are going to use your stitch marker, it goes in after the first stitch, not the second one. I'm just going to count to 12. So if you're not really sure whether say you've lost count and you're not really sure, you've got this tail here. So that kind of shows you that you are back around to where you need to be. So the next round is just going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So that's my 1 single crochet that gets the stitch marker, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And then next stitch gets 1 single crochet, and the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets. One, 2, 1, 2. So at the end of this you should have 18 stitches. You should also end at your marker with the end of your sequence, which is 2 single crochets in the same space. If you don't, you've done something wrong. So you should have 18 stitches. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's number 1 with your marker. That's number 2. So 2 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. I knew I had done something wrong. I wasn't paying any attention. I was off in La La Land. But you should have 24 stitches. So So you're going to make 2 of those, and that seems small, but it will fit and it will sew on perfectly fine. You kind of want it to sit down a little bit. Like, I didn't want it to make it the full circumference of this. I wanted it to sit down a bit because it's supposed to be flat, and I want it a little bit cupped. See, it is a little bit cupped because there's going to be a candle flame on it, so that's what it's supposed to do, just like that. And that's what it does. So go ahead and make your second one. You can fasten off with a tail on this one, and go ahead and make your second one, and then I'll meet you back here, and we can sew them on together. Well, we'll sew at least one on together anyway. So I've got my other one done. So I'm just going to go into this next stitch. I'm going to take this and I'm going to pull it through. Makes it look a lot better on the edge, and pull up on it. And I mean, you can stretch this out if you want. You can shape it any way you want, really. As far as this guy goes, unless you're using this side, we're just going to tie a knot. Pull your circle shut. Pull your magic ring as tight as you can. And then you're just going to make a knot. And don't make the knot tight because you don't want it to slip right through. And then we're just going to cut it off. But leave a nubby so the knot doesn't work itself loose. So we can sew. I got my other one here already on my needle. So we're just going to start to sew. I'm going to sew. This is where I fastened off. This is where I fastened off. So I'm going to just put those two together. I don't know why. I don't know what difference it makes. I'm just going to do it. So you can do whatever you want. So try to do a whip stitch. So you just want the back loop of that and the back loop, and make sure you're grabbing the right. So you want back loop to back loop. You really need to just do a normal whip stitch and not through all 4 pieces. It just looks way better. So just make sure that you're even. So back loop to back loop, and that's all you need to hold this on. You don't need any more than back loop to back loop. So you're just going to do that all the way around. Again, you don't want it to make it look like you've sewed anything on, so that's why we're going to do this whip stitch. Back loop to back loop. And I know it really doesn't look like it's going to fit, but it does. So line it up as best you can for stitch. And my yarn's starting to curl. So I've come back around to where I fastened off, and it's going to be tricky trying to grab pieces. Somehow I got off kilter, so I'm going to go back in the same piece, and I'm going to just kind of go on an angle. I know it's hard to see. The shadowing in here is horrible when I turn my light down. But if I turn my light up, then it's going to be hard to see the white. So, I'm done. I'm just going to weave. So you can weave however you want. I'm just going to pull that up so that I can weave properly. I'm just going to weave to the inside. Now, I just want to make sure that's pulled properly so that it's not going to look funny. You're not going to be able to get away with that looking perfect just because of how we did it. So, so with this one, you can turn this inside out, and you can, you know, do your knot and everything on the inside to secure it. Just make sure you're going down into this as close to your lead as possible. And then I'm just gonna grab a bit of yarn on this side. I'm gonna try not to go through to the other side. And I'm gonna make my knot here. And I'm gonna cut it off. And again, you don't really need to cut it off, because it's on the inside. So now we can put some stuffing in this before. So this instantly wants to dip down like that, and that's perfectly fine. Try not to overstuff it because you want it to sit flat on your holder that you're gonna make. So try not to overstuff. I'm gonna turn my light back up so you don't have to struggle to see what I'm doing. So I like to push the stuffing out to the side. You've got plenty of room on your piece. Like, you're not going to stretch it out that far. And it's still going to be flat. So just make sure this stays indented and flat so it can sit on its own. Which is why I designed it to be so super small. Well, I mean, it's not super small, but I designed it to sit in, not on. So we still gotta put this on. So go ahead and sew your top on, and I'll meet you right back here. So here's my done. This time I didn't have much of a divot there. So you can decide which end you want up and which end you want down. They are going to be different from where you stopped and started. Now that is your candle. So let's move on. So let's start with a magic ring. You're going to put 6 single crochets in there. Pull your tail. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So I'm just going to count to 12. If you're going to use a stitch marker, it goes in after the first stitch, not the second one. If you've lost your way, don't forget you've got the tail to guide you. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. Find my marker. So that's 1 single crochet, that's number 1. And your increase is 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you should have 18 stitches. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. Number 2 and an increase. So for the next 2 rows, this is going to seem weird, but if you've been on this channel following me for any length of time, you know that I'm weird. So, we're going to do something called the griddle stitch. So it's going to give this a really weird look. And the griddle stitch is just alternating back and forth. So this is my rendition. I shouldn't say this is the griddle stitch. This is my rendition of the griddle stitch. So I'm going to change it up a bit. So generally a griddle stitch would be like you would do whichever ones you choose, but say it's a single crochet and then a double crochet, single crochet, double crochet, single. So that's a griddle stitch. You're just alternating stitches in each stitch. This one's a little different because I need the whole wavy thing to happen. So I'm doing the griddle stitch in one stitch around each stitch around. So I'm going to go single crochet. I'm going to put my marker in there. And then in the same stitch, I'm going to do a double crochet. And I'm going to do that in every stitch around for the next 2 rows. So single crochet, double crochet, same space. It is going to get super squishy. You may have to pull back a bit to find your stitch. And this stuff is thick. This is worsted I'm using, so it's even harder. But yeah, I need the pattern. I need to get, you'll see. You'll see when you start doing it. So it's kind of not the griddle stitch. It's kind of a jacked up griddle stitch. So that's what I chose to do here. So 2 rows of this. I'll put it on my screen. And I will see you on the other side. So this is what it should look like. It's all wavy, it's all crazy. And we're gonna keep going. So you notice that when we did this circular flat part, it will fit your candle. Where's my candle? It fits your candle. It's the same size, 24 stitches. So we just gotta make this big enough to come out and around. So that's what we're doing. So the next row is almost the same, but you're not going to hit every stitch. You're going to skip one in between. So other than that, it's exactly the same. So go into your stitch, your first one with your marker. And you can put your double in there. And then you're going to skip one. So if anywhere here you think that you might have dropped a stitch, it doesn't really matter. If it looks all crazy and wavy like this, it doesn't really matter how many stitches you even have around at this point. So completely beginner friendly. You can't really screw this up. You can't. So skip one and go into the next one. So this will still keep it wavy, but you'll notice it kind of flattened down a bit. Skip one, go into the next one, do your griddle stitch. I'm just calling it a griddle stitch, even though it's not quite. It's my rendition of the griddle. It's Tara's griddle stitch. Skip one, go into the next one. Skip one. So you're going to repeat this around for 2 rows as well. Doing the exact same thing, but skipping one. Alright, this is what you should have. All crazy like. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to fasten off. So I used this to sew my candle on, so you will need a sewing tail. So what you need to do is scooch. So I need to take this and I need to, first of all, I don't like how it's ended here. I'm going to go through this next stitch. Actually, let's do this at the back. Makes more sense. So go through the next stitch because I want to be able to pull that up, make it even a bit. So I'm just going to scooch. So I need to scooch down to the middle. I'm just trying to go in on this side. I don't want it to show through, but I'm in the circular part. So you need to decide what's going to be the top, what's going to be the bottom. I'm going to put this as my top because I don't like that. Like that. So put your candle however you want to put your candle. But just make sure the bottom fits over the bottom. So, I just went around like this over and over and over again. But you can sew it on however you want to sew it on. But just make sure it's in the middle, and then these things go like this. So, make sure it's straight and make sure it's in the middle. That's all I suggest. So I just kind of, this gooky mess right here, that was just my tail from my magic ring. And I'm just trying to kind of go over and under it. So I kind of weave it down, so to speak, while I'm sewing. I may still have to cut some of it off, but for the most part, I'm just trying to weave down over top of it so I don't have to tuck it in. It's not being lazy, it's just trying to kill two birds with one stone. Once you think you've got what you need on here, you can just make your knot. You're gonna definitely need to probably do a couple of knots just for added security. That's just me. That's just me being anal. Now go back and forth like this. It really tightens your knot up. Not that I even know if you saw me. I guess I wasn't completely on camera, as usual. So, you just need to do what you do with pie. Just use your fingers and make your things like that. So, this looks like a dripping candle. Mine's not exactly in the middle, nor is it sitting straight up, but there, that's better. So, let's do the handle. It's very, very quick and easy peasy. You're going to make a slip knot. And you're going to chain 25. You have 24 working chains. You're going to slip stitch into all 24 of these working chains. So you're going to slip stitch all the way back up to the front. So you're going to go in and you're going to yarn over and you're going to slip stitch. So once you get to the last stitch, you can just fasten off. You're going to need something to sew with. Not a whole bunch, but... So take your straggler and your lead, and you're just going to make a knot. Tie those two together. So the first one doesn't have to be tight because you don't want to distort it, but the second one can be as tight as you want it to be. Snip that off. So, seem to have lost my needle. So figure where you want your, and which direction. So you can have it where the stitches are showing, or you can have it on this side where that's what it looks like. So you can do either one. Just make sure you don't get it twisted. So pick a spot. Oh, I could not get that through there for some reason. I'm just going to put a couple stitches up and down. That. There. And then fold this bad boy. So you want this part closest to the candle, but then you want this part just on the edge of your holder piece, whatever you want to call it. And then a couple of stitches in here. So you are probably going to have to starch this. Now I'm going to be starching mine. I haven't done it yet. There's spray starch you can buy. It's called Quicken or something like that. Stiff Quick or something like that you can buy on Amazon. I'm not sure what just happened there. You can buy on Amazon, or you can make your own starch at home using glue. So if you got some glue, just put a little bit of water in it. Actually, I think that's fine. I'm just going to weave. Put a little water in your glue, mix it around with your glue. So it should be like, 80% water, 20% glue type of deal. And then just brush it on whatever. Sorry, my camera shuts off every 10 minutes. Anyway, brush it on whatever you want to harden. And it actually is better than starch. It actually works better than starch, so I think I've weaved in enough. I'm just going to make a sweet tiny little knot. Anyway, you definitely want to harden your handle. You're still not going to be able to pick it up and carry it around like an actual candle. I got some fuzzies. But it'll look really neat. Like that. Oops. Like that. Hard to see mine. I didn't sew mine on enough. I'll have to fix that off camera. Sew it on better. But in the meantime, let's get our flame done. So I'm going to do a smaller flame than I did. I'm going to follow the exact same pattern that I wrote out. But I'm not going to use a worsted weight. This is just a regular 4-weight yarn. I have no idea what color this is. I don't have my tag. But I'm going to use my G 4mm and see what kind of flame if I get a smaller flame. So if you want a flame the size of the one that I showed you, this one, if you want a flame that large, by all means use a worsted weight and use your 5mm hook. I want one a little bit smaller. So you can make a magic ring. And you're going to put 6 single crochets. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each stitch, so a total of 12. So I lost count because I got stuck on the yarn splitting, but my tail tells me I'm back to where I should be. So. The next 2 rounds just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch because I want it to start to cup already. So I only have 12 stitches, so I'm going to just count to 24, and I know that's my 2 rows. So I'm going to turn this inside out. That's my 24 stitches. So I'm working from the bottom up, as you can tell. I'm just going to snip a little bit of this off because it's a little long in my way. So, I'm going to start decreasing. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochet decrease. You're going to do that twice. So that's number 1, 2, 3 single crochet, and then your decrease. Just go in and grab some yarn, pull through and stop, and you're going to go into the second stitch, grab some yarn. So that gives you 3 loops on. You're going to pull through all 3 loops. That's your decrease. And again, one more time, 3 single crochets, and your decrease, and then 2 single crochets, 1 in each of these 2 stitches. Your next round is going to be just about the same. It's going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease twice, and then 2 single crochets. So that's number 1, number 2, and a decrease, and do it again, 2 single crochets and a decrease, and then 2 single crochets. So you might want to start putting some stuffing in here before we get too small. Doesn't take much. And I didn't even stuff the tip because it's a flame, right? So if I want to change directions or what it looks like at the tip, I can do that. It's not like it's going to fall down. So we're going to do that weird stuff again. We're going to do 1 single crochet twice. Sorry, 1 single crochet and a decrease twice, and then 2 single crochets. So that's 1 single crochet, and then, oh, I don't want fuzzies, and then your decrease, and one more time, 1 single crochet. Oh, it's stuck. And a decrease, and then 2 single crochets. Getting pretty small. So we're going to do 1 single crochet and a decrease. You really don't need your marker anymore. So that's 1 single crochet and a decrease. And then one more time, 1 single crochet and a decrease. So we can go into our next stitch and we can fasten off, and then we're going to put the point on with the needle. So you need a sewing tail. So we're going to take our needle, we're going to finish so we need a point for a flame. So when we sew it shut, we're going to pull up. So go through your little piece here and your little piece here. We just want to close in the top a little bit. So when you come back up through here, pull up to create that point that we can now bend and shape. I need this to be down here to sew to the top of the candle. So I don't want to wreck the fact that we have a point that you can bend. So I'm going to go down as close as I can to my lead without going into the same hole, because it's pointless of me doing what I just did. So go in as close as you can without being in the same hole. But I don't want to go too far out. So I'm just gonna weave myself. I still want that point. So that's the only part you really got to be careful about, is that you don't pull too hard. So that just looks like a stitch there, and now I'm down at the bottom, and I still got my point on top for my flame. So now that I'm down at the bottom, I can just come across here, grab some of this, go up into here before I pull. I'm going to go up and across here. So when I pull, it's going to get sucked down to the bottom. Oh, that's a much better flame. That's a much better size for the candle. So you just got to do that a couple times. Just got to kind of go down into it. And then I just pop out wherever. Pull tight, and then I go back down the same hole and back up into the flame. Wherever. So when I pull through, that's going to go back to where it was before, which is in here. So you can pull tight. And then I'm going to go in as close as I can to my lead. Come down on another side, I think kind of needs to be held down a bit, if I can get into it. Tight spot. Sheesh. And then I'm going to go down into the candle. I can't really weave with this because it's a different color. So once you're satisfied with how that is such a bright light I have. Once you're satisfied with how your flame is attached, then not much weaving you can do. I've already come down through the filling here, but I'm going to go back into the same hole because I don't want this to show. And I'm just going to kind of scooch out somewhere else. Now if you really want the added security, you can tie a knot, and this gets poked down. So don't make it a tight knot, just make it a knot. Cut off some, leave a bit of a tail, and then you just want to jam that down into the stuffing, and you won't see that yellow at all. There we go. I gotta re-sew my candle back on and not do a very good job. And there we go. We've got our little candle and our candle holder for Christmas. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.